grooves and make moves with all the mommies. The back of the club sipping Moet is where you find me. Who rock grooves and make moves with all the mommies. The back of the club sipping Moet is where you find me. Bad question asking, blunt passing music. Bad question asking, blunt passing music. Bad question asking, blunt passing music. Bad question asking, blunt passing music.
Welcome, everybody, to the Kid Casper podcast. I'm your gracious, beautiful, blessed, beloved, and black host, the kid that they call Casper. The KID in Kid Casper stands for that king of development. I'm that menace with the melanin. Reject me as I am, as long as he is still relevant. So tonight, it's going to be a different, change of space, pace and everything like that. Everybody knows everything in which that I like to do as far as like ministry wise, things I'm passionate about, things in which that takes up most of my times, things I do to feed myself to do these things that take up my time. There's a lot of passion that is taking place. There's a lot of words that is being said, and there are a lot of first steps that are being taken. But then there's always that question, what's next? What's the next step? Where do we go from here? How do we go up a little higher? You know what I'm saying? Instead of just staying in place, staying stagnant, staying complacent, and trying to step away from trying to be more activist than activist. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the polite way to say it. But this is something that I prayed about long and hard. I thought that this would be fruitful, insightful, educational, edifying in some sense. And a lot of people are going to have questions. And that's why I decided to bring on a couple of good people who want to get in some good trouble with me, you know what I'm saying, and answer those questions. And I might have some questions for my guest I'll be sharing this space with. But at the end of the day, you know, we're all just gonna seek to learn at the end of the day. From everybody in the comment section on screen, those are going to watch the playback or watch this live. So before we kind of get into that, I'm gonna drop the intro real quick. If this is your first time tuning in today, hello, my name is Kid Casper. I'm the kid that they call Casper. I'm a Christian raptivist. Yes, rapper slash activist. I love Jesus. I'm super far from a pacifist. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Christian content creator, you know, clothing brand owner, graphic designer, you name it. There's something else I wanted to add. Taco enthusiast. I got a lot of slack because I mentioned my jean size the other day. Apparently people don't think I'm really that skinny as I am. This is an extra large sweater. There is turbulence in my clothes. So hopefully that could give you a little bit more of a feel of what I'm working with equipment wise, but I don't appreciate the judgment and the body shaming. I'm so kidding. Not really. This is just me venting. And you know what? This is my podcast. This is what I do. This evening I have two men that I hold near and dear to my heart, people that I look up to as brothers, as you know, some senses like father figures to me, mentors in which I can talk to about some real stuff, you know, life practicality, biblical guidance and everything like that. But for this specifically, I need to pick their brains. I need to pick their experiences because I think especially as Black men in this society, Black men being Christians in this society, and having, you know, three different age demographics. I'm not going to say who's the oldest. They'll probably reprehend me and, you know, have a bag of belts, but you'll probably tell by the facial expressions. So I'm going to introduce first just because he showed up first and it just literally is just going in chronological order. If I'm not mistaken, 30 plus years of active military service, if I'm not mistaken. Coast Guard, where apparently they know how to swim with the waters of Poseidon and Jaws and everything like that. This is if I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head, he is the lead podcaster of Word for Your Walk, correct? Word for Your Walk. Out of Seattle, Washington. He is a father, he's a husband, he's a grandfather. And he's got a salt and pepper beard. Everybody, I like to call him Brother David. Y'all might know him on TikTok as the Messy Minister. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that gracious intro. Appreciate it.
Gotcha. Awesome, of course. And last but certainly not least, first off, you know, I'm just gonna botch this just because I don't know how long you're in the military. So if you want to throw a number up in the monitors, I can't. Is that a 4? That is a 4. That is a 4. There's a thumb down. Cool. So it's a presidential election. 4 years 4 years of you know, service to the military. I believe it's Navy. These gentlemen were talking smack and dropping bars to each other. There was an ether beat on in the background. They were going in because apparently, you know, coasties and Navy people don't know how to get along because they swim in different waters. I don't know. That's besides the point. Former, I don't even want to say former because the pen doesn't stop until the heartbeat stops. So I'll say father, husband, pastor, activist, currently trying to get your law degree, if I'm not mistaken, correct, Pastor Roy, if I'm not mistaken? Yes, trying to get his law degree, not trying, actively doing. We don't try around here, you know what I'm saying? We do it like Nike, even though he's really, really big on Pumas, even though J. Cole disappointed us in Africa, but that's besides the point. Anyway, he is the lead podcaster of the Savage Truth. You know what I'm saying? I think he is, I don't know who's the original, has a PhD in pulling baby hairs. One's out of Seattle, the other one's out of Greensboro, North Carolina. Everybody, Pastor Roy on the channel tonight. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So because it's been a while since you guys have both been on here, David, I would say like maybe like 2-3 months if I'm not mistaken. Pastor Roy, I think the last episode I might have had you on was Did the Church Fail the Black Community installment we did a while back. So just for refreshers purposes, even though I just gave that very nice and eloquent, I thought it was great. I mean, like, y'all might have a review on Yelp later, that's fine, y'all are ignorant. But I think it would be good for you guys to be able to introduce yourselves, tell everybody that is watching here tonight that's going to be able to watch the playback afterwards, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Please don't make me pick, because I will pick. Y'all could do hot cross buns, y'all could do rock paper scissors.
He's muted, so I can see he's muted, so I'll go first. The Navy was first, by the way, before the Coast Guard existed. But I digress. So but yeah, Pastor Roy, YouTube channel, Savage Truth podcast, Pastor Roy Dockery Patreon community, healthcare executive, technology, global speaker, all of that good stuff. So I talk about business and faith and how to do good things with your time, and and how to just be honest with ourselves, right? The biggest problem we have in the world is that often we don't address our own issues, and we're not getting better while we're expecting the world to get better. And if we're supposed to be the light and we're supposed to be leading, then that means we need to we need to change so the world can see something different. But yeah, that's it for me.
Alrighty. I was seeing him making faces because apparently, I don't know, he might challenge you a little bit on your history a tad bit. He was over here like and brother David, I'm gonna bring you on screen. Can you unmute yourself and tell the good people on the internet, the interweb, what you are about today, sir? I said mute yourself. You turned your camera off. That is not how technology works. You want to try this again? There we go. I unmuted you. You just got to turn your camera back on. What is happening? And he's gone. It's completely dropped out of the stream. And this is why we need YouTube videos for smartphones. That's okay. I think he's trying to reconnect right now. It says completely not connected. And he's completely gone. So while we get brother David back in here, and I'll I guess like we'll try to see how we could try to spin this. Pastor Roy, I usually freestyle this, so this won't be necessarily too much of an issue. So reason I brought you up, there he is. Hey, player, you supposed to unmute yourself. You turned your camera off, completely logged out. Just wanted you to know that. This is where you can introduce yourself, tell the people, the good people on the interweb, what you are about today, sir.
Sure. So, how do I start? So, I am currently active duty, 30 years United States Coast Guard. I am what's known as a regional practice manager. So, I manage 5 Coast Guard healthcare facilities, and I'm on the executive leadership board for the DoD Military Medical Consortium in Washington, Oregon, and Southern Alaska. So, I'm responsible for the healthcare and the supervision of doctors of 5,000 people. I am an ordained minister, and my ministry focus is actually putting the Christ back in Christianity, correcting some of the errors and missteps that the Western church has done as far as its representation of people of color, and the proper exegesis and application of the Word of God to people's lives in a way they can live it out. I think the focus for me has always been to let people know that they're loved by God and that they're lovable. And because of that, they should be loving others. So I'm going to abbreviate my intro and stop right about there.
All right. So reason I really wanted to have you guys here this evening, afternoon for some folk, in the as I think you say the West Coast is the best coast, if I'm not mistaken. West Coast is the best coast. Yeah, he threw up gang signs behind the stage real quick, but that's okay. It's all right. He's reformed, everybody.
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. You forgot.
Yeah,
I'm from
we know. We get it. I understand. But So the reason I wanted to bring you guys by, just because I talked to you, gentlemen, in length and sometimes in passing. Sometimes conversations can be very quickly, and sometimes our conversations can get Pentecostal to say the least, which means lengthy. Not drawn out, but lengthy. Depending on who you're talking to and who's preaching. But I think that this would be good because I, in some senses, with both of what you guys do, Pastor Roy, you do it more on a vocational sense. David, you're, I would say, just getting into trying to get into like the social media space, trying to edify and educate people and everything like that on this. And I think that this would be good. And me being, this is literally like my full-time everything, work, ministry, and everything like that. I think that this would be good to possibly clear some confusion as far for people that are getting into activism, want to know about activism or community outreach and everything like that, want to know the steps, people to talk to, where to apply pressure, where pressure needs to be applied and everything like that. So I think that's kind of a good way to get this started. So I think the first thing I want to ask both of you gentlemen, either one of you can go first, is just for candid reasons. What was the first instance for you when I guess like you got involved with social justice? Either one of you guys can go first.
Well, my mother was a Black Panther. And so at a very young age, I was exposed to the struggles of Black people. I met the eminent Dr. Angela Davis. I've met her. She had a profound impact on me as a young adult before I joined the service. And so for me, I understood the activism, the heart of it is really trying to get restorative justice to people who have been kept from it and all that entails. As far as me personally, being the only me in the service, I'm the first and only Black person in my service that does what I do. There's a lot of barriers, and so activism in the military is a little dangerous. So, but I had to do a few things, step out on faith to let folks know that not only am I wearing this uniform, but I'm carrying my ancestors with me when I come through here, and so I will not be ignored, and they will treat me accordingly. So,
Gotcha. What about you, Pastor Roy? What you got for me?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of got introduced to activism. I went to a historically Black college, North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, famous for the Greensboro Four that started the Woolworth sit-in, that led to a lot of the sit-ins and bus boycotts that kind of mobilized a lot of the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King and other leaders. So just kind of coming in and getting an introduction to that, and then looking at my own past and my history. One of the first things I did when I was a freshman in college, I started an organization called Generation of Survivors. Because and this is like a couple of weeks into my freshman year, because I had been living on my own. So there were things that I knew how to do, right? Just how to pay bills and what credit was. And I noticed, this being a historically Black college, a lot of people from, that come from backgrounds like me, not much means, fathers not in their lives. There was a lot of stuff that people didn't know, right? And so in the same regard, it's like there was work that needed to be done, and then no one was doing it. So I just took action, right? So I was like, well, I know some of this information. Let me figure out a way to organize people. And so I went and figured out who I need to talk to on campus to set up an organization, how to get an advisor, right? All of this other stuff so I can get access to school stuff. And then, so that was kind of in that regard. But the first time I did anything with social justice with regards to like police brutality or anything like that, I just became known after taking that action as somebody who would speak like honestly about anything, right? Whether I was challenging our university for allowing cell phone companies to come prey on students that didn't understand financing, or credit card companies that were putting applications illegally in our mailboxes without postage, right? So and so I got known for that. And then actually the guy from the post office, come to find out, like, was one of the kids walking with Martin Luther King with his parents. And so he asked me to speak at an event where they were protesting police brutality and there was a young black man who looked like an adult. He was like 6'2". He got shot in the back by the police while basically carrying a box that I think was like a science project. And they thought he had just robbed a liquor store that he didn't match the description for at all. And so I just got asked to speak on police brutality at this event. And when I was there, the stuff that I saw just threw me off because, like, other than me and the family of the parents, and this is in a majority, you know, in an area with a lot of black people in a historically black college, I was the only other black person there. So the one thing that I didn't like is that there were people who didn't look like me, and they were the majority of the people that were advocating for the benefit of my life. And I'm like, if like they can't care more about my life than I do. So I'm like, I need to be here, be present, and get more people who look like me in this space so that we can also speak for our own bodies and not having everybody else speak for us.
I feel that. I feel that. For myself, I talked about this many times. My first bite of social justice was when I got involved with the End It movement, which is, you know, one of these organizations that's actively trying to put an end to human trafficking and sex slavery. You know, that involves teaching different like businesses, especially in Baltimore, where there's all these hotels. University of Maryland is one of those schools where it's very easy for people to get snatched. All these hotels and everything like that, they always having to educate people on certain like people that like captives behavior, but then people that, for lack of a better term, poachers behavior as well. So having to teach people mannerisms, things to look out for, signs to look out for, you know, from people messing with cars, from people hanging out and around certain areas at certain times and everything like that. And then that transitioned. I mean, I still do stuff with trying to put it into human trafficking, but as far as hitting the streets on a more vocational tip, or just speaking in general, that would be last year during I don't even want to say George Floyd protest, because they were really for like all the other voices. That was just like the one that broke the camel's back. And that's when I stepped into this calling in which that's all I knew, essentially. So I was like, okay, cool. So, and you know, and it's funny because like even as I'm talking about this, I think of how raw I was. And when I say raw, just because it was like, okay, cool, I'm out here speaking, I seem to be good at this part. But then I knew, okay, there had to be something next. There had to be like a follow-up. There had to be somebody I had to address. There had to be something in which that I had to say when a microphone wasn't in my hand, or there's something I had to do when I wasn't in front of cameras and everything like that. So I think that's where I kind of want to start when we're talking about the importance of knowing how to get in good trouble and knowing where these places to how to get in good trouble. So for both of you guys, and it could be, you know, anything just off of your experience or what you just seem to know on historical facts. What would you suggest to somebody that is just pretty much getting started? Like they don't know where to start, period. What is a good first step as far as getting into this work? And if you could give a reason why, or try to, I guess, like dive into that a little bit, you can as well. But either one of y'all can go first. Don't make me pick. You're muted,
Oh,
Pastor.
sorry, I got my So the one thing I would say is that primarily, and it's almost, you know, kind of what I talk to a lot of the mentees about and people in the Patreon, like, one, you just got to understand what your calling is or what direction you're trying to go into. Right. Like that's one thing that I wind up having to do a lot with my nonprofit. Like people want to do stuff, but like you can't really give anybody direction until they have some idea of what they want to do, because there's nothing new under the sun. Right. Like anything any good trouble you want to get into, there's normally somebody or an organization or, you know what I mean, like somebody who's doing it. But it's a matter of, like you said, the Ended organization was very specific. Right. There are organizations that are specific. So I think the first thing is people have to identify what kind of trouble they're trying to get into. Right. So like, am I trying to get into social justice? And even social justice is a broad category. So are you talking about equality, or, are you talking about pay equality? Are you talking about gender equality? Are you talking about racial discrimination? Are you talking about police brutality? Right. There's a lot under the banner of social justice. And, even if you like the definition of activism that's normally used is like activism is action and or policy. And I think what we've seen in the last year is, or just in the social media age, or like social media justice age, like you said, the activists, it's very easy to take action and get attention for it, but then people don't follow through on the policy side. So we show up to the protests where everybody's being loud, but nobody shows up to the city council meeting, right? So where you have that impact from an activism perspective is actually getting near the people who are trying to influence policy, the organizations that are lobbying, and going to speak at these different forums, because that's where I've seen people take hold on at a local level that can then spawn to something nationally, right? Going to your local city council meeting. Like if the mayor doesn't know who you are, then you're not an activist in your city. Like you're not an activist against police brutality if the police chief doesn't know who you are. You're just somebody taking action kind of indiscriminately, and you can get a lot of credit for that now because you do it on social media and people say that's cool, but you got to get near the policymakers or get in league with the people who are trying to influence policymakers, and then do action that gets them attention. So it's how do you play a part of that team? And sometimes that may mean you fall to the back. That may mean you get some attention by a skill or a gift that you have, and then you direct that attention to somebody else that's trying to do something tangible. Well, we've got a couple action with trying to change policy, and there's a lot of action right now, and we're missing that fundamental part that changed America of the NAACP challenging the Supreme Court, right, and really going after policies that make it a requirement for states to be different, that make it a requirement for integration to happen, that make it a requirement, for segregation to be illegal. And I think that's what we're missing now. It's so easy to take action and get visibility for it and get attention for it and get money for it. Me and Brother David were talking about Marcus Garvey. Sean King right now is getting a little Marcus Garvey-ish kind of energy because you can take action and call people out on Twitter and then get somebody to donate money, right? But what are you doing? What policies are you affecting other than creating a bunch of potentially violent opportunities by, and then it flips on you. And when your address and your house get posted, now you need to relocate. So I think that's the thing, right? We got a couple policy with action, and that's been too detached because we've gotten away from the legal aspect of activism, and we're just the street portion, right? Martin Luther King was in the street. Thurgood Marshall was at court. So we're missing that. And I think that's why we're losing like some of our reverence, right? People don't have the same level of reverence for our activism now because there's no, that other legal policy portion of it isn't happening, or it's happening disproportionately, right? There's one policy, there's 800 marches. So they're like, yeah, just go march and we're going to keep, outnumbering you and outvoting you, and nothing's going to change, right? We had all of those votes. We had all those marches, bruh, and then we lost more voting rights. So who won?
True. What you got for me, Brother David?
So for me, I'm going to talk about an international and national scale when it comes to policy. So I joined the Coast Guard in 1991. And if anyone can remember, if they're as old as I am, in the early 90s, there was a mass exodus of Haitians to the United States. And at the same time, we had Cubans who were trying to flee the regime of Castro. And the United States had a peculiar policy, wet foot, dry foot, for the Cubans, but all Haitians were being returned back no matter what. And it was a racist policy. I'm pulling people out of the ocean, saving their lives, and understanding why are the folks who look like me being turned away, but the Cubanos who look more white, they were acceptable. And there was political things behind that. And so me, because I'm college educated and I understood the struggle. I said, what in the French toast is going on here? So I began writing congressmen, talking to local officials in South Florida, wanting to know why this policy has not been challenged. It took a while that policy has been changed, that we treat all people fleeing from persecution the same way and not just deciding based on their melanin content how the law is going to go. But I was taught to do this, as a teenager. I had a really good mentor and Sister Angela Davis telling me, hey, here's how you do this. So I understood policy action. The other part was being in the military, I had to be very, very careful because I can't speak against elected officials in a certain way because I can lose my job. And so I had to be very careful. So it's a razor thin line. I had to learn how to walk when I'm trying to have these activist things where I'm trying to affect policy and the people. The other thing is I had to really understand the scope, the depth, and the history of what I was trying to affect change. And I realized I couldn't do it in a vacuum. And marches are great, but passion without purpose is a waste of oxygen. So I wanted to make sure that I played chess with this. And so I partnered with elected officials, local advocacy groups who are already doing some of the work in legal space, making sure that what I'm asking for, the community even wanted. Just because I thought it was wrong, they may be cool with it, but they were not. And so if you've ever been to a little Haiti, a little Cuba in South Florida, your heart would just break a million times a day. And all I saw was people of color who were struggling, trying to get free from an oppressive regime, trying to come here, and we were deciding who we're going to love, who we're not going to love. And so that really got me learning how to navigate the political legal spaces. Like Dr. King met the president several times, and the president was afraid, to do what Martin wanted. So Martin put public pressure and used the media strategically to affect those laws to be changed, And so I was telling Casper that, I love your listeners because they're very passionate, but they don't have a purpose. They need to have a specific struggle, a plan for that struggle, and what is their intended result? You just want to be heard? Okay, they hear you. But what's the next step? Sharon King, that's a whole nother episode. I met him. Black folks, I talk about black folks the way I want to talk about this man. So I'm not going to go there. But he needs a spiritual calibration. I'm going to leave it at that. But for me, I concur with everything the pastor said, is we have to be strategic and purposeful in how we look at activism. One, what's the primacy of your struggle? What is the main thing that you're trying to affect or change? Will it require legislative change, or is it a company policy that affects our people detrimentally, and we need to affect their bottom line, which is if we're spending money in these people's businesses and stores, the power of our pocketbook might change them faster than us getting in protesting. The sit-ins, those things are great. The bus boycotts were effective because it was affecting the bottom line of the revenue streams for these people. So you got to decide, what do you want to affect, and then what's your end result? And the messaging is so important because people want to help because they want to help. We're wired that way. We're just wired that way. As believers, as human beings, we want to help, but we have to be strategic in how we use people and play to people's strengths. Some people are great at writing letters to congressmen and putting things together in print. Some people are very gifted public speakers, very charismatic, and they can stay people on message. Then you got folks who are just really good logistically, like, hey man, these folks are getting tired, how we keep them fed, how we do this and the other. And you got to have that group if you're going to be effective with activism. It's a very organic thing. It's not nebulous. You really have to have an organism in your organization that understands how each part is going to function. So in the civilian space, with the Black Lives Matter movement, I was very, very vocal that the military was quiet about it. I said, I'm a high-ranking military officer in the service, and I was not afraid to tell them this is some, what. I said, look, it's black folks in uniform who wear a blue uniform, but they black when they leave here. Officer Skip don't give a flip that I'm Chief Warrant Officer so-and-so. He sees a brother crossing the street in a hoodie, he's a suspect. He fit the description. 4'9" to 6'2", some kind of complexion, let's pull him over. And I'm sitting there, and I thought my military ID was going to save me. No, they don't care. They make the presumption that you're going to go with them because you're in the uniform. No, I'm not that cat. And so I risk my own life trying to de-escalate situation with the police with two things in mind. I have to be seen and heard as a human being and a man. I'm a father and a husband, and I'm serving this country. So you're not going to treat me like trash. But I have to be very wise in that moment in how I do personal activism to save my own life and then get the broad message out. And so there's so much to activism. And I think what's happening now in social media, we got a lot of voices in an echo chamber. We got a lot of marches, so people are being seen, but they're not being effective. And there's so many struggles and so many integral struggles where they're integrated, whether it's the indigenous community, the Hispanic community, Latino community, our Polynesian brothers and sisters. We all have a shared legacy of the evils of the transatlantic slave trade. 2/3 of the folks who were taken into captivity didn't come to North America. They went to Caribbeans and South America, and a lot of people, black folks, don't know that. They think that's our struggle. No, it's a people struggle, and so for me, it's educating the folks who we want to partner with us about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and our strategy to get results. Things that are tangible and achievable and scalable based on what we're trying to do. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep talking for an hour, so I gotta give the mic back to you, Casper, because I've lived this. I have lived this. I've had the KKK burn my house down. I've been shot at. So I've been in sundown towns, and we're talking about 1999, not 1968. So and once people know that you were affiliated with the Black Panthers, there's a target on your back immediately. I don't hide from it. But it's one of those things. You have to be aware of your environment as well. So
I think another thing. I think no, you're good. You're good. I think another thing that is very important that both of you said is play to your strength. In other words, don't step into this space with the comparison game. Meaning, like, if there's something that you're good at, just stick to it. You be the Michael Jordan in that role. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to be out there handing out pamphlets or handing out waters or something like that, play to that strength. Some people, I think, they end up putting more on their plate that they can chew, and they think it looks cute. You know what I'm saying? Some people will go to a sundown town, but then realize like they can't really fight, but their mouth can fight. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, like, for real though, there's that. There's some people that will speak and they are excellent speakers, but they're not really educated. So you're charismatic, but you're not really educated. It sounds very confident and boisterous, but it's really easy to, get a lot of reps on a bar that ain't got no weights on it. You know what I'm saying?
Preach.
And I'm just saying. And I think it's just a matter of, when I say all this is do not waste a rep. Do not waste a movement. Do not waste a step. Don't waste a word. Know everywhere in which you are speaking, and just know that there are eyes on you at all times, whether you notice it or not. And this kind of goes back into like what I'm saying next, what I'm about to ask next. So us being Black men in this country, us being people in this country, we've seen historically what has happened to our leaders and stuff like that. They're going back to the dangers, I would say, of activism opposed to activism, is people don't realize of like what happens with this. Both y'all know I got doxxed last year. It's crazy. Like people flinging bags of piss. Disgusting. First off, like I heard he got the vid and he's taking a dirt nap. I mean, God bless him. That's besides the point. But I tell people all the time though, like, this is not a game. You know what I'm saying? I think people need to understand the weight of this. So talk a little bit about, not even so much about, because even though I brought this up with like the racial component, just talk about us being Black men in this country, but what do you need to do, or what are things and steps in which that you need to take? That way you can still make it to these spaces, whether it's the streets, whether it's the polls, whether it's meetings, town hall meetings, PTA meetings. Those need to be taken seriously too. All these things are important when we're talking about change within society. What are things that you guys would say is super important when we're talking about being safe so you can still be able to do the work?
Man, there is no unity without knowledge of the community. I keep telling people this and they don't understand it. They miss it. You have got to know the community that you are trying to affect change in, the good,
Mm,
the bad, and the ugly. You know, the people who live in these spaces know what's safe and what's not safe. And they've seen people come through pseudo activists and they come running out with their tails between their legs because they didn't calculate the cost. Activism means, from a Christian worldview, that you love people so much you're willing to die for what you believe. If you're not willing to die for this, you're not built for activism. You can support in other ways, but the true activist, and I tell all Christians, whether you like it or not, you're an activist because loving people is difficult. Restorative justice, which is the entire Bible story, is God trying to reconcile man back to him, is what social justice and restorative justice is all about. So there it comes with a risk. The calling to activism like ministry comes with a cost. If you don't calculate the cost and you get in that water and realize it's waist deep and you only want to put your toes in, you're not ready for that smoke. But there's other ways you can help. You can't be braggadocious. So the community is very, very important. If you're targeting a community, you need to, one, break bread and learn exactly the good, the bad about that community. Who are the leaders who are already doing the work in the area when you bust up in there? Because they may have already got the ball to the, to the 10-yard line, and you way back talking, no, stop. We already there, bro. Here's what we need. What do you bring to the table? Don't go in assuming that you're the savior when you started activism. There are people doing work for generations, man, who got skin in the game, literally, and they just need some reinforcement. They don't need new leadership. They need hands to do the work. Because it's like Jesus said, the laborers. Where are the laborers? We need people who actually get in there and get dirty. It's not for clout. It's not for likes. It's not for follows. It's not for mentionables. It's not because it look good on a job application later on. You have to really have discernment to go into activism. So for me, I've always made sure that, one, am I the voice for this community? Or do I need to be the hands and feet that support the voices that are already there?
mm.
And be humble enough to understand that if my objective is their objective, it doesn't matter what role I play. I don't need to be a starter. Where do you need me so I can be effective? You might just bring discernment and like, hey, you been with this cat for 30 years. I think he's skimming off the books. Your budget's light because homeboy is out there doing something else with the money. Now you wonder why you can't feed your volunteers. They out there 12 hours handing out leaflets and sandwiches, and you out of money, and you should have money. Who's watching the money? All those sorts of things. Law enforcement, as much as they are a cancer to the soul of people of color, there are righteous people who wear a badge. And if you can partner with one or two who are willing to take the risk to protect you and your movement, there is no such thing as a bad sense of unity with law enforcement. Now, I trust law enforcement with both my eyes open. Been there, done that. I spent years in special ops doing counter-narcotics work, so I know how shady and grimy they can really be. But I do know that there are people out there just afraid because they want to know if they get jacked up, does the community they're trying to help going to have their back? And so you need to make true friends, who understand the depth that you need for those alliances. So safety, situational awareness, who's doing the work, where can you help? Are you an impediment? Are you going to assist? These things are important. And you also be specific to make sure that you're not leaving somebody out. If the movement's stalling and you don't know why, who's not in the fight with you, who has ears that could be spoken to? Do you have women involved? Have you left a demographic on the side that has stake in your fight as well. You know, you have to look at that. We get very myopic sometimes. You know, hey man, this is our thing, and no one else can be involved. History has proven that always fails. What governments and the enemy hates is when people come together in harmony for a sole purpose. That's when you know you're effective, because they try to shut everything down. They start sowing division and strife and issues. The struggle Olympics we see now, they're trying to pit Asians against blacks, against the indigenous. It's crazy, but this is all satanic. So goes the spiritual world. You know, every carnal thing has a spiritual foundation. So you have to take a look at the person of God. You gotta say spiritually, what is really happening in this space? Is my activism carnal, or am I being led to do this? And Holy Spirit, show me where I should go.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and what I would add there to actually go back to a previous statement that that Brother David said, when we're talking about messaging, right? I think our culture, social media, like this cancel culture thing, that a lot of times people become activists and the majority of their activism is stating the position that they're against, right? So you're talking about what you don't like that someone else does, and that takes the focus away from, and like David said, and like we're saying, what are you actually trying to influence? What are you trying to do?
Come on.
Right. And so that's why even the messaging becomes effective in the branding in that, right? Because defund the police was a stupid statement. Right.
Yes.
And I know this as a pastor of a black church that had black people who was in the hood that was like, you not taking the police out of my neighborhood. Like, and
Come
just
on,
like David said, like not even understanding your own community, that you have a lot of pro law enforcement, right? Black Christians are very conservative, are very supportive of law enforcement and the military, because especially most of the black middle class, a lot of them are ex-military. So that's one of the dynamics as well, that, right, you're trying to say something. And so my thing is, are you trying to get, and I know I tell my Patreon this even about content creation, like, are you trying to get attention? Are you trying to be popular? Or are you trying to make an impact? Because if you're trying to make an impact, your messaging should be focused on, and this goes into keeping you safe. Like, why are you spending all your time trying to rile up your enemies instead of spending time trying to inform, equip, and empower your allies? Like, why am I going to be online all day arguing with people who want to kill me? Like, I don't even want you to know me. Like, I don't want to pop up on your radar. I don't want to pop up on your radar until we already voting on the policy change. Right? Because like I didn't even say anything that put me like in your crosshairs, but because what becomes popular is what's argumentative. What becomes popular is what CNN will support you on and Fox News will bash you for. Like, because of platforms. And I had my man Eton Thomas, who played for the Wizards, played with Jordan. He does a lot of activism now as well. He was on my podcast and we were talking about that, because he was like, you know, he's a Christian, and he was like, you know, he does a lot of, and he's like on Twitter, like he's going after public figures and athletes and all of this other stuff. But he was like, when he won't take a stand on like the pro LGBTQ side, he got attacked by the Black Lives Matter movement. He was like, I don't care. I don't need your platform. Right. He was like, and so even in that, like trying to get like an ally in that space, he was like, no, like I'm not trying, like there's something, he's specific. I'm specifically talking about these issues, criminal justice and how it impacts African Americans, right? Like the over policing of black people. He's focused. And so he was like, I'm not gonna lean one way or another because it'll get me more news articles, or it'll get me more friends, or get me more enemies. Like, when I know who my enemy is, then I, you know, from an art of war perspective, I can plan for that. But when we're just trying to say whatever's popular, when we're trying to say whatever's incendiary or whatever will trend or catch an algorithm, you're going to have enemies coming at you from so many directions, you can't protect yourself. And I think that's when people are not being strategic, right? Like, you know, we're talking about sundown towns or whatever. Like, if you don't know if the Boogaloo Boys or whoever else, if you ain't got neo-Nazis, like if you don't know the demographic of the white supremacists, the neo-Confederates, the Nazis, the, you know what I mean? The whatever, the black Hebrew Israelites that might roll up on you if you're talking too much about Jesus. Like, if you don't understand all the dynamics of what you're coming up against, then like they say, like David said, you're not ready for this. So stop playing, right? And that's the difference in the messaging, in the communication. Because at the end of the day, like he said, like, you know, and as a Christian, right, we are called to be servants. So in activism, we should be serving, right? So we should be finding who's already doing the work, who's been laboring. Like, I know people have been doing, you know, community barbecues and stuff in neighborhoods for 30 years. And then all of a sudden somebody gets shot in Charlotte. Now Black Lives Matter show up. Y'all weren't here last year. But there's mothers who have been here paying for funerals, right? There's churches that have been here doing Stop the Violence concerts that all the Christian rappers perform at. Like, that's our tour circuit. Is all the Black church Stop the Violent events. And you know, in memorial services and all that other stuff. But that's because that's what the media gets attention to. That's what people come and counter protest at. But in that same regard, like, we got people arguing over the different opposing positions, right? We marching, we doing whatever. And then there are people out there being strategic and, like, you know, and being somebody that was ex-military and understanding how the government thinks, right, from a strategy perspective, and the way that you're so focused on a mission. Like, sometimes you will let people die, right? Like, you will let a fire burn in another place to take attention off of what's going on so you can go execute your mission. And that's what I felt like they took advantage of, because they knew we had a lot of people moving with energy and like David said, moving with passion, but with no purpose. So while we were all out expressing our passion, they were purposefully writing policies, right? And then we didn't vote in the midterm. So then we didn't have majorities. And so then those policies are getting passed. And all of that energy and all of that focus, we ain't got, because they know we're not strategic. They know we're not going to protest the voting policies as hard as we protested against police when somebody got shot. That many people ain't showing up to vote. That many people aren't showing up to, to protest at the governor's mansion or whatever else. But, you know, let the governor of New York get accused of sexual assault, everybody outside his house. You know what I mean? So it's like, we got to stop chasing the stuff, the shiny objects. Like David said, like, this is satanic. So, right, like, there are things that are going to happen out there that are going to tempt your flesh to respond. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to want to react. You're going to want to be angry. You're going to want to say something incendiary. You're going to want to let your flesh win. But the people who out here writing these policies ain't marching. They not mad. They got complete peace, because they know exactly what they're trying to do, or they know exactly what they're trying to maintain and conserve, right? Like, we've got to be able to move methodically in that way, and not just be, fired up. And everybody don't need to be an activist, because everybody ain't built for this. Some people need to be behind the scenes. Somebody need to be donating. You know what I'm saying? Some people need to be an ally. Like David said, somebody need to be writing. You know what I mean? You got somebody that's more charismatic and somebody else who can write a better speech. So somebody need to write his speech, let him talk. And as Christians, that's how the body should connect. But because everything is so easy, right? Digital technology is so easy, and I can get on here and do everything myself. And I'm a one-person show. I'm a one-person civil rights movement. I mean, I get tired of arguing with folk that's like, you know what I mean? Like, I made a movie about Trayvon Martin that is the same age as the Black Lives Matter movement. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't that old. Like, why is that the new face now? But it's the new face because that's what we give energy to. It's the new face because that's what the media promotes. It's the new face because that's the messaging that's floating. Why did we not put this much effort in the last 20 years into the NAACP? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we not putting this much effort into Black education? You know what I'm saying? And like the United Negro College Fund, right? To get more people educated so that they are the lawyers, so that they are the politicians, so that they are the people influencing policy, right? Because people don't want us to. And we keep flocking to whatever is attractive. And I did a review on my channel. I don't know if you watched it, Casper, but it was a review of the book called Negroes with Guns by Robert Williams. And Robert Williams said, he was like, they keep sending, he was like, white liberals keep sending money down south to get us to put our guns down. And he said, why is nobody sending money down south to get the Klan to put down theirs? So it's like, in that same regard, like now, right? Like, and all the conservatives, George Soros or whatever, but like white liberal money is funding all of these movements. But why are you not funding charter schools for Black kids that are being discriminated against because of redlining equity and the fact that education is tied to property taxes, right? Why are you not investing in young people who want to become lawyers so that there are more Black people involved in the legal system on the criminal justice side as defendant, as as prosecutors or as defense attorneys or as judges? Like, why would you not put your money there instead of into movements and into things that are just fueling media fire, right? Because you don't really have a purpose for my community, right? Like, this is just a new thing for you. This is just, it's just another thing for you to invest in to try to assuage your guilt or your shame or whatever you're dealing with, but you're not purposeful about how those resources are trying to impact our community. Them same people will argue with you about reparations, but you'll donate billions of dollars to us to organize events that don't have any long-term benefit to our community, right? So we've got to get away from just being against something, right? And being known for what we stand against and being visible because of what we're arguing about. And we need to just get purposeful. And I don't agree with a lot of stuff that Killer Mike says because I'm a Christian. But when he be like, we need to plan, plot, strategize, mobilize, like, I agree with that because he like, stop talking. Like, stop getting on stages and talk. Because you know what? Their meetings are not publicized. So why are ours? Go figure out what we need to do. Have some purpose. Meet with some people in your community. Connect with folks. And then start moving and taking action while at the same time. And I love what David said. Like, sometimes it's a matter of, and I love the balance, right? And I learned this from being in the military and now being a corporate executive, right? I have corporate responsibilities and censorship and things like that as well. But you start to realize like it's not people that I have to attack, right? And like David said, I had to look at the policy, right? When I'm looking at the policy, right? Is the policy being executed? Is there something already in place that's not being used that actually resolves the problem I'm trying to fight for? Because then you look dumb when you go to a city council meeting. They're like, we already have a community oversight board and you're not on it. And then you're like, well, what happened was, so you got to know what the policy is, right? So like understanding those policies and then fight that, because even, because you even see like Biden, right? Biden voted, Kamala Harris, right? She voted for the crime bill. But now you can get popular for changing your own policy and making a switch because that's more politically viable now. So these people aren't married to this stuff that they wrote. They wrote it because of whoever was putting money in their pocket at the time that election cycle was going on. So there might be new money in them pockets now. So if you challenge that policy, then, they can get some new money, right? Because they losing some of their conservative donors or those businesses have dried up. So like focusing on those policies and figuring out, one, making sure there isn't something already there for what you want to address. And then if not, getting with people that will help develop it, or holding towns, cities, whatever, accountable for enforcing their own policies. And that's the one thing I took away from Robert Williams. He was like, when they started using guns, then the police followed the law, because if they didn't follow the law, white people were going to get hurt. So he was like, then they arrested folks. Then they protected us. Then they kept people out of cities, because if they didn't, he was like, we were going to meet violence with violence. So yeah.
I think one thing that's also important, and both of you said it, and that's as far as like getting to know the community that may have some of these movements in action. David, we did a Bible study on this when you were still in Maryland, when we did the book of Acts. And we stuck on the part where Paul wasn't just preaching to these towns, he was preaching from these towns. So he was setting up home. He was getting familiar with the natives and everything like that, because he thought that it was better to have a habitual relationship with the people he was trying to minister to, opposed to talking to them in like drive-by, or as you like to always say, drive-by ministry is not fellowship. It's it's not koinonia, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's important when we're talking about, especially for activism. I was just telling you, I think it was like a week or so ago, we're trying to get rid of this curfew in an area I don't live in. I can go there and like, I can bring my presence. I can, bring my charisma and all these things, or I could create a space in which that people that are personally affected by this, in which that they are directly impacted by it, opposed to me who doesn't have to, necessarily fall in line with this curfew, needs to do. be careful not to just walk in somebody's fridge and then just go and get a drink and you ain't got no talk on permission. You know what I'm saying? I think that's super important just because especially if you look like us, like that's just rude. Like, I don't know about you, but if you just walk up in my fridge, I don't care if you skin folk or kin folk, you getting laid out, you know what I'm saying? That just won't really necessarily go well. But I think that's important. If we're talking about safety issues, not everything, they both said it, not everything that we do needs to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Most of the work I do, I don't have a cameraman. I don't need a cameraman. I don't want a cameraman. I don't need to tell everybody where I'm going to be at. I will tell the people that are going there in support and that are hitting the streets with me where I'm going to be at. But not everything needs to be a Facebook Live. Not everything needs to be, this goes back to the dangers of activism and knowing how to be smart and moving with activism. So not everything needs to be documented. Okay. Some of this stuff, y'all need to stop looking up the latest trends. You need to find out what bills are about to be passed, what are being rejected. You need to figure out who these people are. If you don't know who your state officials are, county officials, school district officials, by name, I think that's fair. If you don't know them by name, don't utter another doggone complaint because what are we always saying? All politics, like ministry, is local. You know what I'm saying? Stop pissing and moaning about DC. Edgewood needs some help. Stop talking about what's happening overseas. There's some you need to do in your country. You know what I'm saying? Take control over what you have. A lot of us try to be like Mr. Fantastic, and we end up doing invisible work essentially because we're just getting hot and bothered by some things that just don't make sense because we're exerting our energy towards the wrong areas. You're going to end up burning yourself out. You're end up being irritable, not productive. Nobody's going to want to work with you. And then what ends up happening is the cause gets halted. And when the cause gets halted, the work's not being done. So, yeah, I think that's
David was brewing over there. What you got, brother? I saw you got come off mute.
Okay, I was about to start speaking in tongues. So here's the thing, and you hit it. You was hitting the points, Pastor, and I was like, Lord, come on, I'm about to run around the room. Strategic communications, strategic partnerships, and operational security, military terms, right? Need to know. Some folks in the movement can't shut their mouths, and you can't give them sensitive information that's going to affect the movement. Donald Trump is not stupid, and people don't understand this. He was purposely distracting while he was putting new judges in place to affect generations of us. He got stuff pushed through by deboing policy through corporate business leaders who didn't understand politics that he put in office so he could manipulate it. He is a master manipulator. He is Hitler-esque 2.0 because he ain't exactly Hitler, but he's Hitler-esque, trying to be kind. My social media thing, and Casper tell you, was my whole heart is educating and equipping the saints because they get a little bit of information and run with it, and they don't have the context, literary, cultural, historical, and political context of what's happening, and it's all biblical. And so my feed is biblical simplicity, so people really understand the faith like they should, like a child. And I throw in a lot of cultural context of the shared struggles of all people. And I do not X out white folks. One of the things that drives me nuts now is people forget a lot of white folks died in the struggle, and they weren't there for clout, for us. And I just want to make sure that we honor that dead saints are dead saints. They died for the cause, and we don't do that. Now, there's folks out there who will jump in for a photo op and put a BLM sticker on their page, but they're not risking their livelihood. There's people in Hollywood who lost their jobs because they said, no, the police are wrong, and they will never work again. I respect that because they put their livelihood at stake because they knew that loving people is more important than likes and movie roles or the anchor position, at ESPN. I think we really need to educate our people on how the legislative process really works. How do we get policy change? how does the legal process function? It's an organism. Lobbyists to laws, how that works. The whining and dining, the grooming of politicians who come in bright eyed bushy tail and get beat down by the system that's designed to keep them not woke but asleep. And they're just arbitrarily voting for things because their party said to do so. And I'm going to say this so everybody understands. The Republicans and the Democrats are the same beast, okay? Republicans or Democrats, how you want to look at it, it doesn't really matter. They're both dirty. Because these fools will yell at each other on the news and then go get drunk and have dinner that evening. I have seen it. And
Getting paid by the same lobbyists to eat.
Come on, bro. You know,
on the same check. They're not even on different checks. He's like, you got that, Halliburton? We good? All right.
You know
yeah, you got that? Cool.
And then when the Panthers, the reason that they so hard on guns in the hood is because the Panthers said, we got Second Amendment rights too. They marched to the state capitol with shotguns saying, well, we can bear arms. White folks were shook. But this way, wait a minute. Negroes read the Constitution? Yeah, you freed us. Remember, we can read, you know.
First law to ban open carry weapons was in California. And
was like, hell
yeah,
no.
First one. They're like, nope. And then other states was like, let me get that paper.
Come on. Come on.
You wrote that, let me see that.
And we got too many Uncle Ruckuses claiming to be in the struggle. Now, if you don't know the Boondocks, I'm gonna pray for you because you in the sauce. You in the sunken place. He would say, you want to hide something from black people? Put it in a book. You know something? It's cynical, but it's true. We don't want to read. We want a quotable. We want a hashtag, but we don't want to put in the work to actually educate ourselves so we know fully and comprehend what's at stake. You know, these fools are playing three-dimensional chess with us, and we still playing checkers. It's ridiculous. It's insanity to me. I got Christians who still haven't read their whole Bible, and they're sitting in the office of pastor. It's insane to me. You know, when I got to tell black folks that Christianity is not a white man's religion, the first church was Northern Africa, their feelings get hurt because no one ever told them that. Open a book, bruh. Which one you want to read? I got 50 of them. Which one you need to read? You know, that we actually had a woman.
Where Mount Sinai is.
A woman that was an apostle, and the patriarchal Catholic Church changed the name to Juna instead of Junia. It was a woman, and guess what? She was a black woman, apostle. And if you took time to understand what the Aramaic said and how the Greek tried to molest the language to make it patriarchal, you don't know this stuff. Lucius, I don't know how black that is. He was an apostle. Are you kidding me? I ain't talking about Lucius Lion from Empire. Lucius was an apostle. Read the book of Acts, brother. You know, I'm just like, come on, man. Jesus of Nazareth grew up, born in Bethlehem, grew up in Nazareth. Nazareth was the hood of the Middle East, was the hood. He had to walk 30 or 40 miles a day to do anything. He was a carpenter's son. He put the hug in thug. That's why he understands us. Hey, Christ had Negro tendencies. You don't like it? I'm sorry. It is what it is. Okay? I keep it 100% because I am an apologist. I'm a biblical teacher. I'm a preacher, and I love to teach people because I want to see the lights come on. White, black, you know, it doesn't matter. Our faith has been hijacked by imposters, murderers, imperialists, and we don't even know our basic history. I got black and brown folks at war with each other, not realizing that was a plan from the beginning. The enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Harmony, unity, community. He wants to destroy those things. We have got to get on message and support one another. Otherwise, all of this means nothing. The pastor and I can talk for hours, but if the folks don't receive it and start moving in truth and in love, nothing matters. I'm willing to die for what I believe in. What black man, and there's only like a handful of us in the Coast Guard for 30 years, would do what I'm doing? Trust me, they don't pay me that much money, okay? Trust me. I still shop at Walmart. You don't like it, I don't care. You can buy my groceries, you know? It is what it is, you know? And I've been to college. I got 2 master's degrees, 3 bachelor's degrees, and I speak 4 languages. But Shay White don't care about that. To them, I'm a nigga. They don't give a damn, right? When I open my mouth, and educate them with grace and walk them through it. That changed minds, not bullets, brains.
So my next question is, and this is something I want to introduce to people, is I think sometimes people get caught up in David, you know what I'm talking about. So a lot of people, how do I say this politely? Okay. A lot of us elect leaders off of popularity and not off of merit, I would say. And I'm talking about any struggle, I would say. We're talking about just people like this is why activism is dangerous. People that have the most followers, they must be the most valid. No, they've just been validated. There's a difference. When we're talking about people that oh, he got a book. Are you okay? You get over there. You over there pacing. You all right, brother? You all right? My goodness. But I think that this is important when we're talking about knowing who the leaders are. First off, I think we can all acknowledge there's just no such thing as a perfect leader. I think when we're talking about having some type of change, whether it's systemically, locally, educationally, Maya does a lot of work when we're discussing the dangers of ableism and everything like that. What would you suggest? And I know what David's answer is going to be. What would you well, actually I don't. He kind of surprises me every day. The man's like a switchblade. One day he pulls out a knife and the next time it's a 9-volt battery out that same switchblade. It doesn't make sense. But what would you suggest for those that are looking for leadership, and how would they know if they do have the proper leadership when we're talking about activism, regardless of actually, you know what? I think this would be good, because I think a lot of people, especially now, they're looking to get into change, just getting the idea of like how school works. Both of you guys are parents. So what happens within like local government and everything like that, like school systems, specifically, staying parked here for a second. What would you suggest as far as somebody that wants to get involved in their local government, whether it's school district, whether it's county executives and everything like that? And also, how would they know who to talk to, who's somebody that can help develop them, and how could they trust them? I think either one of y'all.
Pastor, I'm gonna let you go first, and then because this is personal to me, because I know where you know I'm about to say, Jordan. So I'm gonna go ahead and
So I'll give the more, I guess, a generic answer, right? Because I think the one thing, and you said it a little bit, right? We can't, right? Who's validating these people, right? And I think we've gotten to the point to where if they're validated by popular opinion, or if they're validated by a blue check, then we think they're worth it, right? We think they're trustworthy. When I could spend $1,000 right now and get 100,000 Instagram followers, you know what I'm saying? Like I can pay for that. So anything that can be bought, I don't really trust it, because like that's easy, right? I can get 100,000 views on a YouTube video right now. Just drop $100 on SEO on Google Ads. You know what I mean? Like the vanity metrics isn't what we should be using, but that's what we do almost from a cultural perspective, is like, oh, this person got followers. I can tell you right now, the most powerful people in the city that I live in don't even have social media accounts. Like, you don't know who they are, right? And if they do, like, they got like 18 Instagram followers, and it's like they kids and they grandkids. Like, because people who genuinely have power, people who really have influence, they don't need followers, friends, and likes, because they already have genuine power. Not the perception of popularity, not the serotonin, dopamine response, right, to somebody liking my little stupid post that I put, but people who can go out, have a phone, and make a phone call. And the funny thing is, because they don't function in these spaces, when you say, how do you get help? These people got time, because they're not spending all their time on Instagram doing stories or on YouTube going live. You'll be surprised. You go up to the person who's got the gavel in their hand at a school board meeting or a city council meeting. They'll have lunch with you the next day. They got time. And Casper, because you know what? People with power have time. I got time. I got all day. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, what you want to do? Like, let's go, because that's what you need to look for. You need to look for people who actually have the respect of their community, and you need to look for people who have the ear of the people that have the ability to make change. And all you got to do is go to a council meeting. Go to a council meeting and see the dude that owns the local plumbing company that will dictate whether or not you got a bike lane. And you don't even know who he is. You don't even know the name of his company, right? Like, and I've seen that. Like, I've seen meetings between like the mayor of cities and some other random dude. And I'm like, who's that guy? Like, he owns the local electrical company, but this dude got a seat at the table with the mayor. You know what I mean? And so that's what we have to understand. Like, we like the regular people who not out here trying to, you know what I'm saying, trying to clout chase or try to look popular. Like, people with real power don't need all that attention. You know what I'm saying? So honestly, I would stay away from anybody clamoring for attention. I'd stay away from the person that does everything they can to be on the news. Like, I mean, and Brother Rudy was like, power is silent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think, you know, somebody said, one of them rappers said, real G's move in silence. You know what I mean? Everybody on here, on my YouTube page or whatever,
like
unless you in my Patreon community or you got my cell phone number and we talk on our private Zoom calls, don't nobody on social media know what I do in my city. Nobody. You have no idea what I do. You have no idea who I know. You have no idea where I'm moving because I don't need you to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need the chief of police to know, the mayor to know, the school board. Like, that's who I need to know. I don't care what other people, you know what I mean? Like, how are you helping me because you know what I'm doing? But that's what I think we need more of, man. Like, we've got to get to the people who aren't impactful because they can share your content and get you a lot of likes. You need to get with the people who can get you a lunch meeting with the people in power so you can have a conversation and be able to have some influence, right? Like, you know, like I know somebody that has a weekly meeting with the chief of police, and I just slid in on one of his meetings. He was like, we have breakfast every Friday. You want to come with me? Let's go. So now I got his number, right? So it's like, you just got to play that game, but we got to get out of this vanity metric evaluation of what power looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like, powerful people, all the people writing laws and making the world move, you don't know who they are. And they going to keep it that way. So stop being deceived that the people that they allow to be out front, the people they allow to get the attention and basically take the shots while they do everything behind the scenes are the ones that really have any power, man. Find the quiet people, right, that can get you into the places you want to go, and stay away from the loud people because they just attract an unnecessary attention.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, to piggyback off of that, I think what you said was real G's move in silence like lasagna. I think that's what you were speaking of. I saw poor David over there. He's like, yes, like, but I think when we're speaking about this, as far as like just on a local level, dude, I don't know how many times I'll just be in, like, and you know this town, David, just be in Bel Air. I mean, like, that's literally the judicial, like, city where court is always happening. You could find most of your like local, like, councilmen, you know, school board officials and everything like that. Look, these people, they're not the Justice League. Like, you can really just look them up on your local public school, publicschool.org, you know what I'm saying? Find these people. All you gotta do is go to like that one area where you know that they have typically like county meetings and stuff like that. It's really, really, really that simple. But I think we overcomplicate it because we think that it needs to be this, as Pastor Roy said, it needs to be like this dopamine hit in a sense. It's gotta be like a, oh snap, at big judge on 64 block, he just followed me back up. No, nigga, just hit him up. He has his email in the school district website. Just email him. That's his job. These people have applied to be of access to you. You need to be excessive in your access to them, because if you are not, how does somebody say this? If you are not excessive in your access, that's gonna be your asses. You know what I'm saying? So you need to. I'm sorry, Pastor Roy, I could not sugarcoat it, but
You
that
fine.
is so
And before you let Dave, because David, we got to let David off the leash here. I'm gonna say one. I'll just throw one more thing out there. Like last summer, when I was going to speak at like protest and all of that other stuff, I have numbers in my phone, and I left one of my phones at home, and I told my wife, I'm like, you know who to call, right? Like that's a different way to go to a protest. I went to a protest knowing that if anything happened to me, even if I got arrested, like it's going down. You know what I'm saying? Like having people that don't nobody know who they are, but if I reach out to these folks, they can make the world, they can make a city move in a heartbeat, and they're not even in this state. You know what I'm saying? So it's like developing those relationships where you have a reputation and you got connections with people that'll move things on your behalf is important. And that's why, you know, even the Bible talks about the importance of our reputation as Christians, as pastors, as elders. You know what I mean? That like that, and that's what we've got to be building as well. And a lot of the stuff we do for attention is actually tarnishing your reputation, and it's minimizing the currency and the value you will have in the public space, because some people not going to touch you because of what you done said and what you done, and you're taking power out of your own hands.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted, the last little caveat to add little sprinkles to that Sunday you just dressed up for us, is if you have more media contacts in your phone, then people that can actually like make, you know, I'll say like this. If you have more media contacts that can record the temperature opposed to people that work within your state that can set the temperature, there is a problem. You're averting your attention to the wrong things. Brother David, you all right over there? He fell. Y'all missed it. He caught the Holy Ghost.
I
He
got so
fell out of
excited. I got so excited I fell off my chair because I was like, man, I'm about to run out this room. So strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships. I can roll up on the mayor of Seattle right now. No cap. Because I'm a constituent. He is a public servant. He is paid to serve me. And so you have to understand that you have more power than you realize. I didn't ask for a meeting. I found that the mayor's aides, and I said, look, what's the schedule? When can I roll up? When are they going to have lunch? You meet to make partnerships with those who serve those who can get things done for you. Because they know they got all the receipts. They know where everything is. And you can get all the tea you need. So when you go have these conversations, that you go in there with strategy in mind. Because remember, politicians are trained to respond politically to your concerns. You have to go in there purposely to defeat their policy to make sure that what you want to get done is actually going to get done. Because at the end of the day, every politician wants one thing: to get reelected. Bottom line. Okay? Even the ones who may have a heart for what you have a heart for, make no mistake, they want to get reelected. Okay, it's a money game. At the end of the day, it's a money game. So for me, Freedom of Information Act will let you know who you need to get a hold of. The sheriffs are elected, the mayor, city councilman, superintendent of schools, head of public works, all these people that have influence on the people that you are serving and their environment is important. So we talk about education, we talk about policy. What about the environment? There are schools in Baltimore where I went where there's no air conditioning in these schools. It's 115 plus in the classrooms. That is criminal negligence that the elected officials who will have $500 or $5,000 plate budget fundraisers can't spend a couple $100,000 to put AC in a public school. That's the stuff you got to tap. Because if you say you care for me, then care for my kids, care for my elderly, care for the folks to go to my church. Because you come by election season, wanting the votes, you to memorize a couple verses and you try to be a pulpit pimp, for like 5 minutes, trying to stroke people for votes, nah. The enemy, have angels dressed like, have his demons showed up dressed up in light. I'm not feeling that. So you just got to realize that the mayor does not have Secret Service. The city councilman does not have Secret Service. You're not going to get shot because you want to talk to your elected official, because you are a constituent. You have the right to interact and communicate with your elected officials. They have to serve you. And you guys said it right. I don't care how many likes somebody has, how popular somebody is. Find out who's actually writing the policies for the person that you are voting for. Because I'm telling you something right now, your elected officials are not writing the policy. Trust me on this. They got staffers and interns and they're doing all that work and they just basically rubber stamp it. Sometimes they haven't even read the flipping policy.
Chief of staff. Chief of staff. The chief of staff in some organizations is the most powerful person.
That's the whip
in that organization.
That's the pit boss for real. That's the pit boss. He's like, look, ain't gonna be no foolishness in here. He's the Debo. He's like, look, we need to go this way. I don't care about your feelings. We gotta get this done. That person who can make water, the one who can change the color of money, that's the political term for, hey, this budget is for this, but I got money here, I can move for that. That works in every level of government, whether it's city, state, federal. There's whoever controls the color of money and access to money, know who that person is. You need facts and figures when you go talk to your elected officials because that's all they care about is stats. They look at stats and how much things cost. It's crazy, but it's true. And anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. And they have to explain things to you in ways you can understand it. They can't brush you off. You say, nah, I want to see you again. And guess what? They have to. They hate it when you do it, but they have to, So get grandma, auntie, all up in there, and the kids, and say, make it make sense to us. And just sit there. They can't kick you out, You got to be
Muted, Pastor Roy. Muted, Pastor Roy.
I was about to say the best visualization of that in current dynamics, like everybody got these bike lanes starting to pop up in their cities, right? And it's for the cyclists. It's like 30 cyclists in your city. You know what I mean? Like for real. Like it ain't that many people riding bikes. You see the same person every morning, but them 30 people went to that meeting. They got bread. They took somebody to lunch. They had a little steak dinner, had a little roof Chris. And they done took eminent domain of people's driveways, you know what I mean, to get a bike lane on either side of the room, right? And I'm like, and so in my neighborhood, so we built our house here in North Carolina, and like we've got a 2-lane road that's actually Highway 70 that runs up. And so I see some of the younger, like maybe like young adults or like maybe like late teens, 17, 18. I see them walking down the road to like the grocery store or whatever. But there's no sidewalk, right? So they're literally walking in the grass down there. And I'm like, I guarantee you, if I tried to fight for a sidewalk, they wouldn't get one. But if I said I want a bike lane for all of the people in this neighborhood that got money, I'd get a bike lane that them people could walk to work in the bike lane. And it's funny because before I even mentioned it, they started tearing up the street and laying asphalt. I was like, I knew it was coming. Too many people over here on cycles that's getting mad because they got to deal with traffic. But we care more about 20 people who speak than 20,000 people who say nothing.
It's true.
Right? So get 20,000 people to speak and you can get some movement, but you don't, right? There's a handful of people, they at those meetings, they know, right? You're going to go to the school board meeting, you're going to see the same moms, same 8 moms at every school board meeting. And you know what? They kids got all the scholarships, all of the gifted, talented programs, all the remedial education. They probably got a limo picking them up, taking them to school, and they don't even need transportation. But when you speak, people are listening because, like you said, they have to. It's on the record. It's on the transcript. You got to address it. You know what I mean? They got to follow the Roger's rules of orders for meetings. But we got to get more. We got to get present, and we got to be there, not just when there's a travesty that happened and someone died and we want them to talk about it. Like you said, Casper, we got to be there when they're writing the policy. We got to be there when they're discussing priorities. We got to be there when they're weighing projects. Like it used to throw me off that, like, and again, this is new to me as well, right? Like I've moved a lot. So in the military, traveling for work, like me being a part of a community is new, but like I knew the people who always knew what new business was coming to town. Like, you know what I mean? Somebody would break ground and they'd be like, yeah, that's going to be a Walgreens. Like, how do you know?
Chamber
that's going to be a Walgreens. It's just, and he was like, yeah, because, my friends, you know what I mean? The county commissioner, right? And the county commissioner got to approve all businesses. I'm still trying to figure out what fast food restaurant about to come down the street from my house I got to meet somebody in Whitsett. I don't, you know, I do a lot of work in the city I don't live in, but I got to figure out what's coming because it looked like it might be a Chick-fil-A. And if it is, my property value gonna go up. It's gonna skyrocket with that Christian chicken. But
good Lord.
Ain't no greens though, bro. They ain't got no greens. Chick-fil-A come up with a green game, bro. You know? And a little more seasoning.
Chick-fil-A start selling greens. No, you don't. I don't want them to sell greens. All the soul food restaurants gonna go out of business. Stop trying to cannibalize black businesses.
Facts.
You already got people accepting Chick-fil-A macaroni and cheese. It ain't even that good. They're like, it's Chick-fil-A's. I'll take it.
Black bid.
What I want to say real quick is, Casper, what you're doing. When public officials approach you for your help, you are very powerful in that season because they see your potential ability to move their agenda in a certain direction. So you can either be played or you can play. It's a chess game, and they will groom you. And Casper, you know what I'm talking about. I told you. You know, I still want to meet this brother because I don't know, spider sense going on. If they're willing to wine, dine, and dress you, bruh, don't wait until you wake up in the morning, ain't about money on the counter, and they gone. Okay? You need to make sure that it's a relationship and not a casual encounter because they got what they want from you and then they rolled out. Make sure that you embrace and wield your power responsibly. If you got things that this person wants you to help them with and you're aligned in that regard, there need to be receipts. Public receipts. Policy should be public. If he's going to do a work for you in your community, it needs to be very public and very transparent. What did I tell you earlier? Humble, obedient, and transparent. Okay? Anything they're trying to keep on the low is dirty. It's dirty. So the young brother you working with, I'm telling you, there need to be receipts. Because I'm not, it ain't smelling too good, bruh. I want receipts. And you know me, I'll catch a plane and be like, bruh, what's really hood? You know? Because I'm from these streets and you ain't gonna pimp out one of my spiritual sons. We're not doing this, you know? So, and he may be on the right track, but that accountability is key, man. With anything, people in authority, whether in the church or in church's chicken, it's accountability. You know, and responsibility breeds accountability. If you hold them responsible to the things they promise, they're going to be accountable to deliver those things. And so you don't take the pressure off. Why? Because they volunteered for that office. They ran for office. You voted for them. And now they in the VIP chair. Well, we want VIP results. You know, and bring your family with you and pack a lunch. Because they're going to try to play the waiting game. You know, stay there, stay present, stay focused. But simple strategic messaging with strategic partnerships will get things done, and realize it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, election cycle, they don't even know you. They're going to get you up till, and then they're going to disappear. So stay a presence. So when they wake up, Casper there. You know, did I call him back? You know, they should wake up like, oh, snap. You know, that brother told me he needed me to do something. He going to have like 30 people in my office tomorrow. You want that smoke. You want them to fear that kind of smoke, you know?
Yeah, and on top of that too, when you talk about being strategic as well, like when you have those opportunities, right, and people want to bring you in, when people bring you into a space, paint the walls with your name.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? If somebody bring you into a space and they want you to just come and they want to put you on a podium and let you speak, make sure everybody there that look like they somebody know who you are. You got their number, you got their email address. You get their card, keep a backpack with you, keep a fanny pack, and just stuff it with cards, right? And then when you
this is my cash app because a brother need to get paid.
And follow up, right? And follow up after. Be like, hey, I met you at this event. This is what was going on. Just wanted to say it was nice to meet you. And like you said, like keep it on your mind because people will do that. They'll introduce you into spaces. And like you said, they kind of want to parade you for a specific purpose. But, and you know, we've been talking about this the whole time, passion plus purpose. They might want to bring you there because they want to borrow your passion.
That's it.
Right? They want to borrow your energy. They want to borrow your youth. They want to borrow your blackness.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? But that's fine. I'll bring you there and I'll let you borrow all of that. But I'm still walking in my purpose. So you better believe I'm going to be purposeful with every handshake, every head nod, every acknowledgement, every conversation. And then by the time I leave here, there are going to be more people who know about my purpose than they knew about yours.
That's it.
Right? So use that opportunity. So in any time you get into a space, don't Don't be shy. Don't be in the background. Nah, like become a social butterfly. Be like, how you doing? What do you do?
How
and
your
then
mama
play
doing?
yourself down. Be like, I'm sorry, I don't even have a card, sir. Like, can I have your information? And then be out there on your listserv. Be like, this is what we're trying to do. But collect that information, man, and just make sure you're always, even if you're there representing something, always have your purpose. And that's why, going back to what we said at the beginning, having that strategic focus.
Yes.
Right. So when somebody be like, oh, well, what do you do? Be like, well, you know, I'm working with this person, but you know, my main thing is X. Right. And you give them something actionable that can get their interest, right? That challenger sales, how quickly, right? To have something I can pitch to you at a time. I go from one floor of an elevator to a next one. 10 to 15 seconds, elevator pitch.
That's
bam,
it.
bam, bam. Give me your card. I'm locking you in, and you know, I'm gonna haunt your nightmares. You know what I'm saying?
It.
Like, because now I got you. But that's the other thing I would say, man. Regardless of who takes you somewhere, make sure that you show up there. You don't let them bring the version of you that they're trying to take advantage of or that they're trying to promote.
And be prepared. Be prepared for the curveball. Be prepared. Make sure you study the people that you want to work with. You know, not someone's looking for dirt, but really make sure you do your homework on them. You know, and be prepared, man. They're gonna ask you some stuff thinking you may know, and if you don't know, don't lie. Say, no, I don't know anything about that, but I know who does. You may need to bring in one of your partners to assist you to make a pitch to somebody. So don't be afraid. Don't be out there, you know, single soldiering it. Nah, it's the community. Like I said, man, there's no unity without community. You need a community to make this thing work. So, and know how to delegate. You know, man, if the councilman has an affinity for you, but you got a partner that has a way to communicate something you're trying to get across, bring that person. Say, hey, you invited me, but this person you need to hear because he's aligned with my purpose and he's valuable to me, so he's be valuable to you. You know, that's very important. That's also part of making that those strategic family creations are important as well. You know, that's where we struggle as a community, not just Black folks, but the BIPOC community. We have to get away from the struggle Olympics. We really do. We all have the same wants and needs and desires, and we have to decide hierarchy of need. What is the most important thing that affects all of us right now so we can do this in community? And if that's not going to happen, then with your tribe, y'all focus on that priority, but don't get tribal. Because people may come late to the party wanting to help. Don't close the door on an opportunity. The Lord gonna send blessings out of nowhere. So just be receptive. You know, use discernment when you're doing your partnerships. You know, like I said, don't get played. Know how to play.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you a rapper, Casper. That's one thing when I had the record label or whatever, you know, I would always tell people to be ready, right? Like be ready with your best 16. So you know, if somebody walked up to you right now, you know, you run into Kanye at the airport and he got his lawyer from Good Records with him. What's your hottest 16 right now? What are you coming with? And then it's the same way with activism. Like you got to be prepared and know where you are and always be ready to have that opportunity because you never know who you can be around or the window of opportunity that God will provide. But you've got to be ready, right? Like you know, we gotta count the cost. We gotta be aware. We gotta mind our reputation. But we've got to be ready, man. And when the time comes, just capitalize on it. But yeah, be ready with that hot activism 16 and just hit them with it when they, you know, hit them with it and get your deal. You know, that's what you got to do.
Lord Jesus.
Catch Jesse Jackson at BWI. You know what I'm saying? Like, look here, player. I don't know what you're doing. You about to retire. What you need to do is hand over this rainbow.
Come on.
That's what we need. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's the
legacy.
Get that old blood up out of there.
It's true. I've been telling Casper this. The young voices need to take the benefit of old wisdom, but the old folks need to shut their mouths and actively listen to what folks are trying to say. The folks closest to the struggle have the best intelligence. You know, they get the best intel. So our job is to give them strategies, give them options so they can do this thing for the long haul. You know, I don't believe in telling people, oh, you're young, you don't know anything. That's a bunch of nonsense because you got more brain cells firing than mine. And so you're going to think quicker. And so my job is to help you with that walk in wisdom, you know, and show grace. I'm not a big fan of pooping on people because they're young, and I'm a big fan of respecting our elders because there's a wisdom that you cannot buy. They have been there, done that, and we
Yep.
need to understand that generational respect up and down is so important. In the word we hear about, that vertical relationship between me and the Lord, right? Christ established that. But we have to make sure we're doing a horizontal piece, being in fellowship with other people, that are in the same fight. Do not forsake the assembly of like believers. So in politics, so in the faith.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think something that we touched on very, very briefly, but it's like I said, y'all know me, at least for my style, as far as me in this podcast space. I freestyle most of these things, but I think that that's something that is super important. Like we just asked about who are the people that we need to look to as leaders, but who are the people we need to look to as followers, people we surround ourselves with. I think any good leader without people not only not, I don't like the word submit, I say sacrifice, but bend to in a sense, bend, not fold. When talk to me a little bit about the importance of having a good support system, people that are going to be like, hey, we stepping towards, as you just described, tribalism in a sense. When we're, while fighting for, like, say, Black liberation, we need to make sure we're not putting our knees on somebody else's neck.
Right.
While fighting for Asian liberation, we need to make sure we're not putting our knees on the indigenous necks. While fighting for indigenous liberation, so on and so forth. Talk a little bit about the importance of making sure you ain't got no wild bills, you know what I'm saying, in your camp in a sense, because I think what ends up happening is a lot of people, when they do become leaders, they think it's more about them than it is about the cause. I don't know if you guys have had any experience in that in itself. Calm down, brother. breathe
So,
breathe
man, you can't do what I do for 30 years and not end up with a PhD in leadership. And the bottom line is dealing with people. So every person who's a detractor is not a Judas in your camp. Sometimes there's not always bought. They're not already completely sold on what's going on. But you need people who are of the same mind with the same objective in your camp. Anyone who's constantly trying to tell you what you should not be doing, that takes away from the purpose of the movement, is someone you need to be wary of. You got your inner circle and you got your outer circle, right? You get supportive staff, but your core, you don't want yes men. You want people to affirm that you're making a wise decision, but you don't want people that's going to say yes because they just like being around the person who's in charge or has the most charisma, because that's dangerous for you. You need someone who can critically come to you and say, bruh, that ain't it. I know what you're trying to do, but the wise choice is this. And then you have the humility, but also discernment to know when you're getting godly counsel and somebody with a carnal intent. And so that's why I say you can't move politically and not be moving spiritually. You have to depend on the Holy Ghost to make sure you're doing the right thing. Now, when it comes to people who want to support you, that's fine. Some people just want to help, and that's fine. Leaflets, sending out emails, hey, whatever, that's cool. If there's folks who want to be involved in the decision making, you need to interrogate their intent. And I mean that. Interrogate their intent. Why are they so adamant with being a part of the decision making if you are the natural leader of the movement? Because delegation is key for effective leadership. You need to take some of that stuff off your
You better
plate.
say that. You better say that. You
Delegation
better
is
say that.
delegation.
You
A
better
lot
say
of
it one more
pastors,
again.
become kings, and I say no. It's servant, shepherd, not king. It's not a monarchy. The Lord gave you His children to take care of until He gets back. You are not in charge. You're the under shepherd. You're not the shepherd. And so I have to school a lot of pastors who get caught up in that nonsense. Most ministries and most political leaderships implode because they don't have the right cabinet. You need people smarter than you advising you. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're operating on a deficit. You need smart people in the room to help you make the best decisions. Do not be afraid of that person who's gifted in the area that you really need. God is sending you a blessing. He's handing you the baton. He's like, bruh, I got you. Homeboy right here. This sister is the truth with this. Analytics, she got that. You need to know what a blessing is. Be humble. be humble, but have wisdom, and you can vet people who volunteer like you vet your public officials. People put their whole lives on social media because they stupid. You'd be amazed how much you can learn about people by just going through their social media stuff and like, nah, I don't know about this person. They don't know about discretion. They don't understand about grace. They don't understand etiquette, and those things are important, especially as you interact with senior people who are going to be doing big things for your community.
And what I'll add to that, and it's funny that that David said that, because I've been I'm executive, been in leadership for 20 years, since started my own company when I was 20 years old. But I just told I was interviewing some people for a management role, and they asked me like, what will it take for me to be successful in this role? And everybody, they kind of asked that that catch-all kind of closing interview question, and I told all of them, because they're all people who come from a technical background, currently within our organization, leading people, but they're working supervisors. And what I told them is that you have to get comfortable with leading people who are smarter than you. And I said, and if you can't, you will never be successful.
That's it.
Right? Because trying to stay the smartest person, I said, first of all, you're not going to be able to, because you need to lead people. So if you stay the most technical, savvy person, it's because you're failing at leading your people. And if you're depending upon your technical knowledge to get the respect of those people as their leader, you're going to lose it the further that you stay, right? The further you get from being involved in the technology and being in a different space. So one thing I want to say is, and I don't know, I'm kind of funny with this, but I don't like followers. Mm-hmm. I don't like followers, which is why I'm a weird person to have a YouTube channel. Things that I do that attract followers, I stop doing them. Right? Casper knows, like, I was doing the Savage News every day. People were loving it, but I was getting followers. So I stopped, because I had people that were just following me. You wanted to see what Pastor Roy was saying. And I don't care for you to be around me, right? Like, you're not engaging, you're not contributing, you're not adding to the community, you're not developing your own things. You have no desire to lead other people. Then get away from me, right? Because at the end of the day, the problem with followers is that they get easily distracted with a shiny object. Ooh. Right? Like, that's the person from this campaign to that campaign, from this cause to that cause, from this person to that person. Those are followers. And so what I'll say is that what you want to surround yourself with is servants. Mm-hmm. Right? Because as a leader, your goal as a leader is to be the chief servant. Right? Like, my job as a vice president is to support everyone in my organization. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not their job to support me. It is my job to support them, that they've got the training that they need. They've got the resources that they need. They need cars. They got cars. They need money. They got money. They need airplane tickets. They got airplane tickets, right? It's my job to support them from a service perspective. And so when you're leading, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be a leader, you're just the servant of the servants, right? Like, if you look at Jesus, and that's why I love Ken Blanchard's book, Lead Like Jesus, servant leadership is based on how Christ functioned. The entire corporate concept of servant leadership is based on Jesus. If you read it, if you look at it, it's serving, right? It's serving, it's leading through service. So even if you're the person that's like maybe the face of the movement, your job is to lead the people who are serving with you. And the problem we have is too many followers, first of all, are becoming leaders because a bunch of other followers said that they were good. And it's not because you're called to leadership. It's not because you have the ability to lead. It's because, like you said earlier, Casper, somebody validated you. Yep. And now people are looking at you. But what you are is you're not a leader. You're a follower with a bunch of people's attention.
That's it.
And you get nothing accomplished other than other people just following you, right? Like, nothing gets done because you're not serving any purpose. You're just following something for the sake of following it. So I would say surround yourself with servants. Surround yourself with people that if you're in the middle of a problem, everybody will just use their gift, their talent, their ability, right, to just jump in and get it done, right? I know you, like you said, there's some delegation, right, some responsibility, but if we show up somewhere, and like we said, if you love handing out pamphlets, grab the pamphlets out the trunk, hand them out. If you love talking to people and handing out water, then grab the water and hand it out. If every time we show up somewhere, I got to tell you how to serve, when you have a gift to serve, then you're here to follow me. Because this is the thing. A follower always needs directions. Servant doesn't. The servant just needs an opportunity.
That's it.
That's all the servant needs, right? Like if somebody loves sweeping something on the floor, they're gonna sweep it up. I don't have to direct you to sweep it up. I don't gotta tell you to go to do crowd control. I don't have to tell you to take pictures. You go everywhere with your camera. You love taking photos. So when we hear, you just gonna take photos. And so some people need to be feet, some people need to be hands, some people need to be a mouth, some people need to be a voice, some people, right? Like it doesn't matter, but that's what you need to surround yourself with. Surround yourself with people who know enough about what their gifts are, what their skills are, and what they find an interest in, and what they get a fulfillment from serving in. And surround yourself with those kind of people, right? Like that's one thing I love with my ministry. I had a guy who loved praying and talking to everybody. When we did outreach, I had a guy who loved performing in randomly weird places, so he did that. I had another guy, he said he was legs, right? I got a bad knee. You know what I'm saying? I'm good, upper body solid, but my knees is weak. And he literally used to look at me. He was like, boss, I'm your legs. I got you. So like he would bring everything to me. So I'd stand there. I'm running sound, right? I've been doing sound since I first got saved at 19. I've had a studio in my house since I was 20 years old. So we do an event. I'm rapping, but I'm also doing the sound. So he bringing me the bins. I'm plugging everything in. But like, and it just happened, right? I didn't have to say, you go get the bins or you go do this. I do what I'm good at. You do what you're good at. And even though I was leading, like I was serving them and I was the first one to show up, I was always the last person to leave because I was serving them. I made sure they had food. I made sure they were good, that they weren't tired. They always ate before me. They always finished before me because I served them as a leader. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you got to do. You got to surround yourself with servants who will just jump in and do what they good at. And you have to be confident enough as a leader, which a lot of leaders, and David, you notice from the military, because we put a lot of people who are not leaders in leadership positions. Leaders trust the servants around them.
Yes.
Managers hardly ever trust their employees, right? Leaders trust. So that you got to trust people to get the stuff done, right? That you delegate to them, or the things that they take on, and just trust that they get it done and then support them. But surround yourself with servants, right? Like not people who want applause for everything. I mean, some people need, people, love, words of affirmation, but if I got to pat your back and, give you a cookie every time you do something, and I got here before you, I'm leaving after you. And like, even with me, like I'm not getting paid either. So like, we're all here to serve. And so though, even now, like I'm over our outreach ministry, right? Like I'm not begging people to show up because I'll be here and it'll get done either way. But if you show up, I know you came here to serve, you know what I'm saying? And so, and that's what it is. But surround yourself with servants, man, because I'm not saying anything's wrong with followers. Followers will buy your merch. Followers will donate money to your Cash App. But them the last people you want to be with when you're trying to do an event and actually get something done.
That's it.
So follow all day, but send a check. Thank you. I don't need you to be present. Just send some cash instead. And then I'll take the people who are ready to get down and ready to get some work done. And go do what God called us to do. And I only got like 3 more minutes because I got to go put my kids to bed here on the.
No, you're fine. You a full-time father. I know how that worked out.
Hey,
all 3 of my children.
Cheering or chillins?
Chillins.
So another question and we can kind of close out on this because I think that this is really, really important when we're talking about activism. When is it a time to step down or step away?
Bro, I'm going to say this, and I should have said this earlier. So you manage stuff, you lead people. But as a Christian who's in leadership, you are always in search of Timothy or Tina. Who is going to be your successor? My job is to train my replacement while I'm working in my purpose. The mission doesn't stop because you go to glory. The mission never stops. So you need to know when it's time for you, when you've run the race, done your best, and it's time to hand the reins to somebody else. You need to be constantly pouring into somebody who you know It's called leadership, and they need the mentorship. As you're leading and people are serving you, the best way you serve people, identifying those natural leaders and equipping them to take leadership. You can't be so prideful that you want to hold on to your legacy, and then when you die, the vision dies, the purpose dies, the movement dies, and then the people suffer. You really have to understand what servant leadership is. It's about discipleship. Jesus could have done it. He's God in the flesh. But he wanted to partner with us so that the mission would be fruitful. He wanted seeds planted everywhere. He wanted fruit everywhere. And so he took 12 knuckleheads, some rednecks, a couple of fishermen, a thug lug like me, Peter out there cussing and cutting people's ears and stuff off, and he equipped them for the work of the ministry. So when he left, they could hold on to the fort to return. And then when he returned, he gifted them again with the Holy Spirit. So you have to be looking for people who are not only going to serve you, but you can trust them to be shepherds when you leave. So when to leave is based on a couple of things. Confirmation from the Holy Spirit that your work is done. God will let you know. It's that simple. God will let you know. And that you can't be carnal about handing over the reins. God will let you know. Trust me. He will let you know. In the military, I've been somebody's boss for 20 years. Okay, I've been somebody's boss for 20 years. And I identify early those people who have potential and those people who have purpose. God can do anything with your potential. It's those people who have purpose who really, really are walking it and really want to do it, and they're hungry. Our job is to feed them. Give us this day our daily bread. So we need to give them that spiritual nutrition and that encouragement, equipping, so they can take over when it's time for you to step down. That's my basic advice, and you'll learn that through experience. You'll know. There's somebody in your camp right now who is learning and gleaning on the edges that you may need to invite in. So if you need to step down, he or she can take over.
Yeah, and so I'll do it this way. There's one, you need to identify when it's time for you to stop. And when I say stop, I'm talking about like having a Sabbath-like rhythm of when you need to rest.
Yes.
Because a lot of people wind up having to step down because they're burned out.
Yes.
So you've got to, from a mental health perspective, from a physical health perspective, you've got to be in tune with God and trusting enough in God. And a little bit to what David was saying as well, that you can stop. And if what you're doing is what God called you to do, while you rest, he will continue the work. And what that actually shows you as well is that it ain't you, bro.
That's it.
It ain't you. Like, God will continue to grow it when you're not moving it. I've done that several times in the last 8 months since starting a YouTube channel and completely stopped making content. And my YouTube channel grew at a faster rate than it did when I was making videos every week, every day. Right? So go completely against it and say, God, it's up to you. If there's something you want to do, fine, but I'm going to rest because I feel you calling me into rest. So we've got to be attuned to God and when to stop. I know people in my Patreon know I'm taking a sabbatical all next month. I'm doing nothing, digital content creation, any social media, nothing. Shutting it completely down. Can't wait until September 1st. Actually, I'm shutting it down on Monday. After our Patreon call on Monday, I am done until October. But so knowing when to stop, knowing when to leave, I agree exactly what David said, right? When you know that you've built up somebody who can carry on the purpose and the vision of what God gave you in that season, knowing when to leave is also knowing when God is moving you into a different season, like when God is transitioning you. So it's good to be in calibration. You know what I mean? It's good to be in calibration with God, of knowing that, okay, like I'm done here. And I remember we were at a church and, there was a lot of stuff going on. It was a majority white church. There was a bunch of racist stuff being said by the pastor. And my aunt Dion, who's an amazing woman of God, she's an attorney. And she asked me the question. She said, do you want to leave or has God released you to go? And I was just like, no, he ain't released me to go. I want to leave. And I literally stayed there until God released us to go. And it was like 2 years later. And the pastor that was a problem had got, had stepped down, had left the church, and it was all this movement where I don't think that would have ever happened if I would have left because I felt like I wanted to leave, right? So one, leaving when you feel God has released you from that season and then transitioning into that next point and waiting on him. Like you can even feel like you're supposed to be going, but wait until he says go, right? Like before you jump into that double dutch rope, make sure God give you the green light. And when it comes to stepping down, I think there's a couple things, but one, sometimes we need to step down because we're feeling ourselves too much. Boom. Right. Sometimes as a leader, we actually have to step back and just start to serve again because we forgot what it felt like to serve. So, and I feel like this with pastors, that's why I love, I be tearing up on them Undercover Boss episodes and just be like, because like when you just get back to the bottom, I think sometimes and periodically you just got to step out of your leadership role and step down into a position of serving so that you can see what your organization, what your creation looks like, right? Like I still do that now. Like I go and look at like, what are my technicians going through now versus what they were doing 7 years ago or 10 years ago when I was in the field? What does it look like today? I have that, I have all my leaders come together and we have that discussion. And then when it comes to, stepping down so stepping down one, just because sometimes you need to get like that kind of ground, you need to get off your high horse, you need to get off your throne. Sometimes and get down there with the regular people. And sometimes it's you made the wrong decision to step in the first freaking place. And the one thing that Christians are very bad at doing is reneging on what we claim God told us to do. And he really didn't. So like we will stay in the situation because we had the audacity to put God's name on something that he did not ordain, or we could have just, our hearing was off or we were, our calibration was off. We was on the wrong frequency. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes we need to step down because we should have never stepped up to begin with.
Come on, you preaching.
Right? And that was our arrogance. It was our impatience. It was our immaturity. It was our frustration, right? Maybe we were supposed to be under a leader, but we got frustrated with that leader and went and started our own thing when what we really were supposed to be doing was serving that leader and helping him develop his weakness.
Facts.
Right? So that's the other thing I would say, right? Sometimes you got to step down because nobody told you to step up in the first place and you out of pocket. So get back in it before God have to check you. Because I tell people all the time, I want God when he's using his small still voice. Because when God yells, it hurts. I'm just saying.
You know what I want to say, Pastor, and I missed this, and I'm sorry, y'all, but compassion fatigue. In ministry spaces, we give so much of ourselves to the folks that we love dearly that sometimes we try to pour out of an empty cup. That Shabbat Shalom, that Selah rest, is so we can be restored, and be refreshed so that we can actually be useful to God and to our purpose. If we don't know when it's time for us to enjoy God's love for ourselves, we become snarky, we become unintentionally abrasive sometimes and autocratic. And that's because we are not taking our commanded day of rest or season of rest. Whether it's you want to do a Saturday, a Sunday, or you need to take a month off like the pastor's doing, you need that Shabbat Shalom, that peaceful rest. Not just rest, that peaceful rest, that Shabbat Shalom. It is so important because you need to be restored. Because remember, the enemy will send people to wear out the saints. They will just inundate you with things. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. And because we are lovers and servants, we want to meet every need at the point of the need when God has not called us to meet every single need. And so we also have to make sure that our most important ministry is our home ministry and that we take care of our home temple, which is our bodies that the Lord has given us. So that compassion fatigue is real. You need to realize when you're really, really tired of just giving all of yourself. Because if you're giving all yourself, what are you giving to God, and where's the space for God to give to you? I
think
mean to preach, Pastor. I was gonna leave that to you, but it happened.
I'm
It
done.
happened.
I got another mic over here. I would drop it, but it's expensive.
Yeah,
but I think one thing that is also important when we're talking about just this work in general is not to make it an idol too. It's very easy for your ministry to become an idol. It's very easy for your work to become an idol where all you do is breathe activism, you eat activism, you sleep activism. Like literally that's all you think about. And I think being able to have a life outside of fighting for life is important because it's just, I mean, like you guys are both, I mean, I can only assume, but you guys are ex-military. If all you did was breathe, eat, sleep, poop, military, it would make no room for anything else. You wouldn't be able to be fathers, husbands, friends, brothers, you name it.
Christian.
I think that exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like
Casper, you know my deal. I was special ops for 6 years. I was doing dangerous stuff, for 6 years, 24/7. And that's a very dangerous space to be. I work with SEALs and Rangers and all those alphabet super of highly testosterone driven, carnal people. And, you get caught up in that space. It actually affects you spiritually, then it affects you physically, and you don't realize it. You need to detox from the world. You really do. And you have to be careful, especially Christians who truly love people. We give, go, 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 and no one's gonna tell us to stop. Look, I'm gonna keep it 100. And black churches, if you say you can do it, they're gonna give it to you.
Yep.
And you will keep going and keep going and keep going, and then they be wondering, oh, I don't know why are you okay, Brother David? Are you okay?
Oh, why such and such leave, right? Because you burned them out.
Because you wore them out, working them like a part-time job. Come on now, so you.
I teach everybody that I do ministry with that you need to learn how to say no. And I also talk to leaders, right? Pastors, stop taking the path of least resistance and stop continuing to ask the people who say yes.
That's it.
Right? Ask some other people, make it a little bit difficult because what happens is your servants wind up leaving the church because you run them ragged.
They went from servants to slaves because they feel obligated to serve you because you're the man or woman of God, and they don't want to let you down. Then they end up in this state where my faith won't be strong enough because I can't endure the work I'm called to by my pastor or by my elder, and that's the enemy playing mind games and running muck in their head rent free. And so we have to protect the saints spiritually, emotionally, physically. That's the role of the shepherd. Yeah. And I get on Christians. I'm gonna be honest. Every Christian is a preacher because people see you living the gospel through your life before you open your mouth. And so if you love people like you say you do, then they should recognize it before you open your mouth.
That's what the Bible say. The way you love one another is what would make them say, ask if you were one of my disciples. And I talk about that all the time, brother. So right on there. That's why, that's one of the reasons I wear a hat to say I'm a Christian, because there's a lot of people out here and people like, that's what a Christian does. Yes. We love people. Yes. We don't just judge them, and we're not just hypocritical, annoying Westboro Baptist people. No, come on. That's not what a Christian is. I'm trying to take the brand back, brother. What I'm saying? All these crazy people done ruined my father's name out here. I ain't about that,
I say, put some respect on my father's name. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Put some respect on his name. Yeah, I love people where they are, who they are, where they're at, regardless, because that's where God found me. That's how the Lord found me. I don't care who you love, where you love, and who you should not have loved. Because until you understand what love is, your carnal cravings will be satisfied by the love you get from Jesus Christ. And that's not my job. My job is making an introduction. The Lord will do his own work. You just got to be supple, and let the Holy Spirit do its own work. But you can't intellectualize it. People will not experience love until you show them love. Bottom line, you got to show it. That's why I don't get snarky with people. It's why. People are people. People are allowed to have bad days, have bad seasons. They're not going to be all rainbows and candy every day. And they need to know you're not that all the time. Casper, no, I got a bag of belts, his name on it. I'll go full Medea on him.
Why are you always threatening me? We're supposed to preserve black life, not put it in danger. My God. Like,
are you a child of God? Are you a child of God?
Yes.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
You know what, Negro? I'm tired of you.
Bag of belt.
My goodness. But I think the one thing I'm gonna close this out with is when we're talking about just knowing when to step away, is making sure that we are exerting ourselves in the proper way. And then going back to having your tribe, making sure we have people that are ready to let us know, okay, that's enough. You know what I'm saying? You need to stop getting all them reps on the bench before you decapitate yourself. We need you. That's great. That's a pretty speech, but you ain't eating in 4 days. You know what I'm saying? Like hey, brother David, if I'm lying, I'm lying, right?
No, for real.
That's real. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all really out here fighting for the beautiful struggle, and you smelling like one. Like we need these things. These things are all important when we're talking about nurturing and taking care of yourself, and everything like that. Just because, if we want to liberate, I said it one time on one podcast, if we want to fight for liberation, we need to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in bondage in the fight for liberation. There's a balance to it. It's a healthy balance if you can obtain it, but anything can become an idol, and anything can become obsessive, and anything can become a prison. And sometimes we're the ones that control the keys to opening the door to that prison. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. I know both y'all is busy. I kind of hit both y'all up last minute. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, I think they spicy enough, got enough. You know what I'm saying? I know you was about to go on your sabbatical, Pastor Roy, so I know I had to get you in at the last minute. You know what I'm saying? And you text me at 4:00 in the morning. You don't really have an excuse, but that's besides the point. Like, but thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. This was good. Hopefully everybody got something out of it. It's always interesting. Just trying not to head into these conversations without a plan necessarily, and just letting God to just take over and direct, and we just kind of fall in line and just submit to the Holy Spirit as far as the conversation goes. But thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Always remember, you are beautiful, blessed, and beloved. Raisins don't go on potato salad. Hey, Pastor Roy, do you know people eat condensed milk with avocados?
Why?
No, I do not.
Yeah. I know somebody. It scares me. It with ice in it.
That's shenanigans right there. That's just
nasty. That's just nasty. Lord, we come against all that foolishness in Jesus' name. No.
Shenanigans.
No. Look at this black man. He looks tortured in his spirit.
No.
And I love guacamole, but guacamole and condensed milk, like this. My daughter would be making this face right now because she always making stuff.
He looked.
You just ruined my night. Just thank you. Now I got to go to bed thinking about condensed milk, and now I got to go ask my wife about this. She loves avocados. Ridiculous.
Raisins don't go on potato salad, and Jesus wasn't white. Have a good night.
Amen.